He had everything, but his soul was dying. The rescue in the attic. Have you ever felt like a complete stranger in your own life? Imagine waking up every day in a perfect house, driving a luxury car, and being applauded for your career. But when you look in the mirror, you don't recognize the person you see. This is the story of Arthur, a man who conquered the world, but in the process, lost himself. It's a journey about the silence that precedes a storm in the soul, and about how, sometimes, you have to fall apart to rebuild yourself. What happens when your own heart sends you one last distress call? Prepare yourself, because what Arthur found in the most forgotten place in his house might be what you need to find too. If you've ever felt disconnected from yourself, subscribe now, because this journey will speak directly to your soul. Arthur was a work of modern architectural art, just like the houses he designed. His life was a facade of glass and polished concrete. Flawless, admired, but cold to the touch. Success was his constant companion, but joy was merely a rare and formal visitor. At business dinners, his smiles were well-executed projects, and his hugs for his wife Helena had the precision of a blueprint but lacked warmth, lacked life. He was a king in a castle of ice, and the weight of his own crown was slowly crushing him, freezing the passion that once kept him warm. Years ago, that warmth came from the smell of wood, the dust of sawdust on his hands, the magic of transforming a lifeless block into a sculpture full of curves and feelings. That passion, however, was buried alive under the foundations of the successful man he became. The first crack in his perfect castle wasn't an earthquake, but a heartbreaking whisper. One evening, Helena watched him from across the room, her eyes welling up with a sorrow she could no longer hide. With a trembling voice she said, "I miss you, Arthur. Not the brilliant architect the world applauds. I miss my Arthur. The one who laughed with his whole body, who had splinters in his fingers and a universe in his eyes. Where is he?" Her words were a mirror that reflected an image he could no longer ignore. A hollow man, a ghost inhabiting a successful life. The pain of that truth was so overwhelming it left him breathless. That was his lowest point, the acknowledgement of his emotional bankruptcy. Is there still a way back when we've strayed so far from ourselves? Leave a like if you believe in the power of transformation and keep watching, because what happens next is proof that hope can be found in the darkest of places. That very night, as if the heavens were crying for him, a leak in the roof forced him into the attic, a sanctuary of dust and memories he had avoided like a tomb. And that's exactly what it was. The tomb of his dreams. The weak beam of his flashlight revealed what was left of the real Arthur. His carving tools, covered by a sheet like a shroud, and an unfinished block of oak, waiting for 15 years for hands that never returned. As he touched the cold wood, an electric current shot through his body. It was a reunion. He fell to his knees, not from the weight of the world, but from the weight of missing himself. A silent, convulsive sob shook him, a mourning for all the years he had spent as a stranger to his own heart. There on that dirty floor, he didn't just decide to change. He begged for a second chance. The end of this story isn't about Arthur becoming a famous sculptor. It's something infinitely more beautiful. It's about a man who learned to be whole. Months later, Helena walked into the workshop he had built where his sterile office used to be. The scent of wood filled the air. Arthur had his back to her, working on a sculpture of an embracing couple, the lines flowing with a tenderness he seemed to have relearned how to feel. When he turned around, Helena saw something she hadn't seen in a decade. His eyes were welling up, but not with sadness. They were tears of pure, absolute joy. He looked at her, then at the sculpture and said with a choked voice, "It's us. Finally, it's us." Helena approached, touched the wood warmed by his work, and seeing her husband's face, cried with him. They were tears of relief, of gratitude, for having her Arthur back. Not the architect, but the artist of his own life. That is why his journey shows us, in the most profound way, the power of the quote by Norman Cousins. The tragedy of life is not death but what we let die inside of us while we live. Arthur almost became a victim of this silent tragedy. He was alive, breathing, but he had allowed his essence, his passion, his purest joy, to die in the name of an idea of success the world sold him. His story is proof that it's never too late to go up to the attic of our soul, dust off our forgotten dreams, and with trembling hands, begin to carve the life that brings the sparkle back to our eyes. What did you think of this story? Did it move you? Comment below which part touched you the most. Leave a like so this message of hope can reach more hearts, and share it with someone who needs to find themselves again. Subscribe now, and if you can, consider making a donation to help us continue bringing stories that heal and inspire. Thank you for watching and for being a part of our community. Until the next story.